open up the champagne, pop. It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this.
Hello, welcome to Talking Real Estate with Angela Briante. I have a wonderful guest today. I have Susan Atwell. Her company is Atwell Stage Homes. So thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'd love if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do, what your company does, and also how you became a stage home decorator.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Sure.
Again, I'm Susan Atwell, president of AtwellStagedHome.com in Somers, New York. And realtors and home sellers hire me to reveal the hidden value in their home and to ignite buyer interest. Because unfortunately, most home sellers, they don't know where to start, what to do, or how much to invest when they're preparing their home for sale. So I like to help them showcase the beauty and character of their for sale home, and it can be fun, and it can be economical, and it can be very quick. And I have staged over $300 million in real estate.
Wow, that's significant, Susan.
That's a big number, yeah. And also my advice has appeared in many local papers and online for usatoday.com.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Bottom line, home sellers who call me first, sell high, sell fast, and don't become stressed out messes during the selling process.
Wow, that's wonderful. How did you become a home stager? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or did you have your own personal experience that led you into that career?
It's kind of a happy accident, like most of my careers.
Okay.
I was actually a computer programmer, and I was helping some friends. They liked what I was doing with my own home. I got hooked on HGTV and that kind of stuff, and one friend was trying to sell, and I said, let me take a look at it. And his house, it was when the market was really good. It was, I think, around 2006, and his house was on the market 9 months, and it had not sold.
Wow.
So I said, let me take a look. Went in. We spent a couple of weeks, weekends, just fixing it up. Very small investment, mostly sweat equity. Got his whole family involved. And when the house went back on the market, he sold it in 2.5 months. And it was Rockland County, and there was a 7-month inventory at the time.
Wow.
And he had more than one offer.
That's
And
fantastic.
at the end, the agent said to me he'd like to hire me. And I was like, really? Get paid to do this? It had never crossed my mind.
Wow.
And then a year later, I decided to start the business.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great story.
Thanks.
Happy accident. I like that.
Everything, yeah.
So when you go into a home and you see lots of clutter, disorganization, possibly dated items, do you extract everything from the rooms and bring your own items in, or are you kind of repositioning things and using what they have to create more of a warmth in the home? Like, how do you judge what will be done in each home based on the items you use or not?
Right. So the majority of my clients are living in their homes while they're on the market.
Okay.
So what we try to do is help them invest in the things that are staying with the home, like paint and repairs and cleaning and maybe getting that oil tank out of the ground, right? So what we do is we try to use their items to stage the inside of the house as much as possible, so they can invest in the things that are staying and adding value to the home, but arranging using just what they already have. So the majority of my clients spend very little on actual decoration. Obviously, maybe some fresh towels, fresh bedding.
Sure.
But most of the time we're editing and just eliminating distractions, so that when people are walking through the home, it still feels warm and inviting, but they're able to get over to maybe view the fireplace or
Sure.
over to the window to see the great location, the backyard, and all of those features that are really, really adding value to the house.
Sure. It's really about that first impression. I know what you create obviously is photographed, but also that first impression walking into a home. I know when we do our professional photography, it is it almost, the photographer thinks we're like crazy people, because we literally enter into a room, take out probably half the items sometimes, then the photographer comes in and photos, then we go to the next room, we do that over and over again, and that's just to capture a really good first impression picture. When the items are brought back in, and many times there's some reduction, I always tell my sellers, pretend you're moving, pretend the home is for sale and the home is sold. What do you do with the items that you haven't used in 2 years? We'll package it up, because hopefully that's what will occur. So especially in the market right now, it's occurring quite quickly. Now, I had a question here. Can a home seller stage their own home? So I'm just wondering, some people have the gift of decor, some people don't. Hiring a home stager is an option. So I was just wondering, if somebody wanted to stage their own home, what would be your recommendations?
Yeah, so staging your own home can be challenging in the fact that it's hard to see your own home through fresh eyes. So it could take a bit longer, and I find that when I go into a home and someone has already started to stage, it tends to be either they've taken out too much or they've taken out too little, and it's hard to find that balance. So I would say maybe 10 to 20% of people could stage their own home. I think the challenge is it's probably going to take longer, they don't have the experience. So sometimes it's great to just start with a consultation, at least maybe a 2 or 3 hour consultation with a stager, and then they can do the work, but they'll have the clarity of, here's what I need to do, and especially if there's more than one person living in the house, everybody's got their own idea of what should be done.
Absolutely.
So sometimes having someone come in who specializes in just knowing how to get the most value and the flow of the house so people are really seeing it. But if somebody did want to stage their own home, the things to look at is really to try to get in the shoes of the potential buyer.
Sure.
And really try to see it that way. And sometimes you might have to bring in maybe a friend or something who isn't as familiar with the house. So those are the things how they could start.
Sure. I know sometimes what we do is, when we have an initial meeting with the potential client, we walk with them through the home, but we stop in each doorway and we say, this is what we see when we look into this room. And many times they don't see the pile of papers in the corner with the tissue box on top of it, because they see that every day. So we kind of kid around and we call it a picky home buyer viewing.
Yes.
So they look at it from a different lens.
And that's perfect what you're doing, because I always tell my clients, go back to the door and see what it looks like there, or that first place where you're going to see the space, because that's the first impression. And if there's a great feature, and every room has at least one great feature, so if you're not seeing that the first minute that you walk to the door, then it's time to remove the things that are distracting from it. Yeah, but it is hard, yeah.
It reminds me of direct mail in my previous career many years ago. It was direct mail, so it was in marketing, and they said you had 2 seconds. So when somebody's looking through postcards or mail, you have 2 seconds. It's probably similar when you walk into a room.
Absolutely.
In the doorway.
And there's that series of first impressions. You're talking about the photos, and then when they drive up is another first impression, and then when they open the front door, and then of course each space. So yeah, there's a whole series of them, and it is fast.
It is.
It's
it
like
certainly
speed
is.
dating.
It's a good way to consider it. Is home staging for a vacant home, as well as a luxury home, as well as an average, in a market, an average home that's priced right in the middle? What size, or I say price point of a home, is staging ideal for?
Yeah. Staging is really for every home, regardless of the size, the location, the price, the condition even. Because the first goal in staging is always to bring that house to move-in ready. That's sort of that baseline goal, is to make it feel move-in ready. Any home can be brought up to the next level, at its best, staging is going to wow the buyers when they come in, right? Because
Sure.
you want to create that emotional connection. Because as most of us know, we
Absolutely.
buy on emotion and we justify it later with logic.
Sure. It's such a great way of putting things.
Yeah, so so staging really is for every home. And I've gone into a few homes even recently, and I'm there and going, wow, why am I here? This home looks so great, but you can always bring it up just to the next level. Because as you start walking through the home, you'll see that maybe the flow isn't quite as good. You're not getting people over to seeing those best features. So there's always subtle little changes, and most of the time in staging, it's just a series of minor changes that add up to making these big first impressions.
That's great. It all makes a lot of sense, and it makes a big difference. I understand you have some before and after photos, and I'd like to, we could have them come up on the screen so that the audience can see them. So what before and after, I think you had 2 or 3 sets. Which photo would you like to speak to first in terms of what you did from the beginning and then how it ended up?
Yeah, this one in particular, I love this example because this home was not put on the market until a couple of days before Christmas, about 8 days before Christmas. And the homeowners had reached out to us in September, but it took them several months to get everything together. And I remember they were worried about putting the house on the market near Christmas. And I said, well, the best time to put your house on the market is when you're ready and it's ready. So 8 days before Christmas, it went on. And this is what it looked like after they had fixed it up. You can see the snow in the back. The only changes they made were they did add a rug that was new, but every other piece of furniture in there was found in the home.
Wow, you just repositioned all that. That's amazing. That really was a tremendous difference.
Thanks.
Tremendous difference.
They had a full-priced offer the first day on the market, and they did get 2 other ones after that.
That's fantastic.
So when people say you can't sell in December, I always give this example.
Right. Last week we had John Tantillo on the show, and he's a branding expert. And at first I said, I'm not really sure how strong branding is tied into real estate. And I knew that we had, overlapped in the past on a property, and he really did, was helpful in that. But that's not his, main niche, real estate. But if you think about it, when you're staging a home, you're creating a brand for a home. You're creating that first impression. They're walking into a home and they're saying, wow, this home feels like a home. It's pulled together. It's updated. It's fresh. It's crisp. It's open. It's airy. It's got a great flow. So that really, if you think about it, a home has its own brand. And that's what we're looking to do as realtors is put our best foot forward, or the home's best foot forward to get sold. Do you have any other images that you'd like us to put on the screen to talk to before and after?
Sure. I think we've got, this is another one of my favorites. And this home was a colonial home. So when you walked in, this is what you saw. Now,
that's the living room?
Yeah, that's the living room.
AKA the workout room.
Yeah. And they were smart. They knew that how they lived in the home and how they needed to show the home were 2 different things. And so they went the extra mile and brought the fitness down to the basement, and we did have to rent a little bit in here, but you'd be hard-pressed to see what was rental and what was theirs already. And this home sold for almost $30,000 over asking.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
That is fantastic. So is there another set of images that you'd like us to put on the screen? Okay.
Sure. Again, one of my favorites.
Wow. Is that a closet or a room?
Well, that's the interesting part of this. When your kids grow up and they move out of the house, why not create a walk-in closet for mom? So this was a bedroom, and they were using it as a walk-in closet, again, which is perfectly fine when you're living there, but now they're selling and they know they had to show it differently. We had actually run out of furniture, but they were grandparents and they had the portable crib. So we were able to bring that in here, and it was the smallest bedroom. And it fit for the type of house. This was a raised ranch, and most likely the people coming in here would have, young kids.
Oh, that's fantastic, because it also gives the buyer the vision that this room is large enough for this type of a bedroom or even I've seen rooms, it could be like a small, almost an extra large closet, and they created a space that looks like an office. But a buyer might not have that vision walking through if there's items in there that are not related to an office space. So that's smart.
And also, if we'd left the room empty, it's counterintuitive, but empty rooms, vacant rooms, actually appear smaller than rooms with furniture in them. Plus, when they're undefined, sometimes it's obvious. If there's maybe a chandelier, you go, oh, I think this is the dining room. But it's still difficult when people walk in and now they're thinking and trying to figure out what something is instead of just feeling, the
Get
room
back to
and
the emotional
connection.
Love
Exactly.
it. All makes a lot of sense. Is there a rule of thumb for how much somebody would spend on home staging?
Yeah, this number has always been something that I heard came from the real estate side of the business, not from home stagers, but it's an investment of 1% to 3% of the price of the home. So for simple math, $500,000 home, spending between 1 and 3%, which would be $5,000 to $15,000, but that would include not just the staging, but all the fix-ups, repairs, painting, all of those items.
Okay.
And so that's why if I can lower that 1%, which would be for the staging, and use what they already have, they can invest more in, again, the things that are staying with the home, like the painting, repair, cleaning, and all of those types of things that people are doing. So that's generally it. Most of my clients don't spend nearly, not even 1% on the staging, unless it's vacant, and that's a whole different animal.
Okay, certainly seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that each home, or I should say each room in the home, be staged? Or is it just that first impression, the first few rooms? What do you normally do? Do you do the whole home at the same time, or?
Yeah, so there's two types of homes out there. There's the vacant ones that are empty. And in that case, a lot of times we don't do every room because there's sort of a budget, usually a budget limitation. So we pick the most important rooms. A lot of times that would be the main, the entry and the living room and dining room, kitchen, and the master bedroom.
Okay.
But if people are living in the home and there's furniture in every space, you want a nice consistent flow throughout.
Sure.
So you do want to look at every single room and make sure that when they're going from room to room, they're seeing this nice consistent flow, and it doesn't feel like one room is staged and the other one is like, what happened in here?
Right, sure.
Is this the same house?
Right.
So yeah, for occupied homes, definitely every room. It's great to stage them all.
You want the whole package, right?
Yeah.
What would the time frame be to stage a home? So if there was a seller that wanted their home listed in approximately 30 days, that's normally what we see. That they want to prepare some things, maybe paint, maybe reduce, and by the time we do our magic and do our due diligence, it takes about 30 days. But within that time frame, if you were to be incorporated into the team, let's say, what would be your time frame from beginning to end to have the home prepared?
Yeah, 30 days is a great amount of time. I got called the other day and they were taking pictures that afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So,
my goodness.
So part of it is always meeting the client where they are, right?
Okay.
And if they need pictures taken in a week or 2 weeks, or I have people call a year in advance now.
Okay.
It's happening more and more. People are starting to realize they want to do this a little bit sooner rather than later. But 30 days is actually a really nice amount of time. I would say 2 weeks is probably the minimum, even for a vacant or an owner-occupied home. And again, you're always going to work within what the client is comfortable doing in that time frame, because it's still their home, it's their budget and their choices as to what they're going to do. But you and I, we always give them our best advice as to the way we think they'll get the most value. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you find with the market being strong as it is right now that people are doing less home staging, or is it more of a trend and you don't see a reduction in the amount of people having home staging done? Like, what is your snapshot like from your market segment?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things happening now. I think even when it's a seller's market, that example that got me into the staging business to begin with. It was a seller's market when that house went on. It should have sold, and it didn't. So even in the best markets, homes don't sell But what I'm finding now is that more people are aware of this, and the more homes that are staged, the more everybody realizes now it's a competition. And so,
that's true.
yeah, so it's, it's the unstaged home that's going to help sell that staged home.
Sure.
Because there's going to be such a dramatic difference. They're not
Right.
going to get that feeling that they could move right in to that unstaged home, whereas the staged home, they're going to be, oh, wow.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they're willing to pay more for a staged home or a home that feels move-in ready, because they might be able to get more of a mortgage, but they might not have the cash to do the fix-ups that are required
Sure.
for a home that feels like it has a lot of projects.
Right, it does. I mean, it gives a sense that there's not as much deferred maintenance because it's really that, going back to that first impression. If a seller decided not to hire a home stager, what one or two items would you recommend that they do that would actually be very, very important to come out the gate as strong as possible in terms of marketing their home?
Right. I always say, in real estate, they say the three most important things are location, location, location. And in home staging, I always say the three most important things are clean, 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 and then
yes.
clean again.
Yes.
Because clean sells. Clean gives people, when they walk in, I've seen homes sell just because they were clean. People walk in and they go, wow, I could move in.
Sure.
And then I can do those updates on my own schedule. And it's funny, because that's actually what happened to me over 20 years ago when I bought my house. I looked back and I went, wow, I bought it because it was so clean, and then I really enjoyed my time fixing it up.
Right.
I think the only challenge, and you probably run into this too, is how clean, like trying to explain to the home sellers, like what level of clean. So I like to think of The Odd Couple, and sort of have them bring out their inner Felix Unger, or if they're more familiar with something like Friends, with Monica.
Right.
That's
Right.
the level of
Yes.
this like crazy one-time clean that you would only do to prepare the home for sale. Because everybody has their own definition of
Sure.
clean, even within households.
Absolutely. So possibly maybe even bringing in a professional cleaner that has a level of standard that is possibly different than the homeowner.
Absolutely. And I even suggest, even if you have a regular cleaning person, to hire another team to come in who has never seen the house before. Because they're going to go in and they're going to do a level of cleaning. They're not going to do the routine cleaning. They're going to do that real detailed cleaning. And then, keep your regular person to continue to do the maintenance afterwards. But it is a great idea. And it's great investment.
Right. And the depth of cleaning that's a really good point too. Really great point. So I know you're based out of Somers. How long have you been in business? And the market that you work in, is it primarily Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, Manhattan? Where's your primary market?
Well, I've been in business 11 years.
Okay.
And mostly Westchester, but I do go into Putnam, Dutchess. I've gone over to Rockland County. I've gone as far south as the Bronx.
Okay.
And I've gone into Fairfield County as well, Connecticut.
Okay. Does home stagers need a certain license or certification, or is it just a gift that you share?
It's always say home stagers are born, not made, I think.
Sure. Oh, I believe it.
And actually, it's an unregulated business, unlike yours.
Sure.
So really, anybody could put that shingle out there. But I think that it is just something that you have. I think you're just, born that way. And I think I've been staging ever since I was a little kid, moving things around in my room and decorating dorm rooms and lockers. And, even everything was always sort of staged in a way.
I think you have it or you don't with decor.
Pretty
I really
much.
do. I see it. I definitely have experienced that. So if somebody wanted to get into home staging as a career, is that something you would recommend? And what would be your next step, the best next steps for somebody to look into home staging as a career?
Sure. I actually have a lot of people reach out to me. They want to be an assistant and things like that. And I'll say to them, have you thought about starting your own home staging business? And then I'll chat with them on the phone. And I have a couple of resources on my website for staging training. most people learn, I think, staging just the way I did, by just doing it and watching television and seeing what other stagers are doing. And then there's sort of business training that you can have, how to run the business of staging. And that's the other part that comes in.
That's great. Would you do it all over again?
Yeah, I love
wonderful.
this.
That's wonderful. That happy accident was a good thing.
Oh, it's meant to be.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm so thankful you're on the show. I think we met. It was the Women's Council in Westchester.
Oh yeah,
it
was like 7 years ago. I
remember that. I remember a bunch of realtors were around you, so you must have been, working with them in the past, and I, just popped into the chat circle, and I was impressed when I met you, and I remember you had a booklet, and you kind of spoke about, what you do, and you gave some great examples. And again, I'm really impressed, because I really feel it's almost like a gift that you're able to pull together a home that needs the help that it really needs to be marketed properly. I know that when I go into home goods myself, I know I am drawn to certain items where other items don't even look at. Yeah. So that's a lot, to me, has to do with somebody's opinion of what a home should look like. So how do you take somebody's style that likes a particular look and create something that speaks to everybody? That must be one of your challenges. So if you could tell us in 2 minutes or less, how do you speak to anyone walking into a home so that they're as pleased with the next person walking into the home? So it speaks to everybody. Right. In terms of style.
Yeah, when you're working with what people already have, you don't want to reinvent their style. You want to hang on to that a little bit. But a lot of times it's just a matter of editing and going down to maybe a cleaner line, a simpler look, so that you're not taking out their personality completely from the style of the home, but again, eliminating things that might be distracting or might not appeal to the masses.
Sure.
And so a lot of times really it's just, I think of it as editing down, keeping it simple. And it's funny, you worry about where every little thing is, and then you kind of hope nobody sees it.
Right.
Because if those items are in the right place, people are going to see the house and not the contents.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and think of it, and if they do open closets, they'll say it has a lot of storage.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, thank you so much, Susan, for being on the show. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here. If somebody were to want to reach out to you, what is your phone number and how can they reach you?
Well, thank you very much. Okay. It's been great. My phone number is 914-525-0454, and you can also, if you're interested in free tips, tools, and transformations, head on over to atwellstagedhome.com, and you too can learn a little bit more about transforming your own home.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Open up the champagne, pop. It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins.